Alright guys, I think it's time to finally tell you what will happen if we purposefully cause another bank panic. There are multiple things that could happen. One of them is the government fails, the banks fail, capitalism fails, a lot of people starve and die because they can't grow their own food and take care of cows. For those of you who have played Fallout, kind of like that. Second option, immediately after we do this, the bank fails, the government collapses, capitalism falls apart. Now there is a worldwide bid for American land. Who now controls the American people? If we do not have a system in place immediately after doing this, everything will fall apart and we will then be owned by, I don't know, China, Europe, Russia, I don't know, someone. Option 3, the Fed takes a loan from the World Bank. Because that's what the World Bank is there for. I promise I'm going to talk about the World friggin' Bank. And it is important to note, based on the whole rest of this series, that the United States is tied directly to the well-being of the entire rest of the industrialized world. If our banks fall, global recession immediately ensues. Listen, y'all, there's only so much ammo to go around. And only some of us have more than 20 rounds. The rest of us gonna be fighting our government with sticks, rocks, and friggin' shanks or something. I don't know. People who didn't take their money out of banks are gonna be mad because the people who did take their money out of banks ruined the government and capitalism and all of that and ruined their investments. They're gonna be mad. But it doesn't matter anyway because most of us only hold about 2% of the world's money. Top 1% have the rest of it. There's also a good possibility that the banks are going to be like, ow, you hurted me. It's also worth noting that our federal tax dollars do not just go to American banks. The banks that own the United States Federal Reserve and purchase stocks and bonds in it are all across the world, mostly China. You know, China, the communists? I know where I'm going with this, except for just to say, if you're gonna fuck with the government, you better have a plan for afterwards. You better know it's gonna work, like it better be foolproof, man. You can't just take step 1 and not have a step 2 or a plan B in place. Case, if this was to happen, lots of people would die, and it's very likely that it's going to be your children, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your parents. From either starvation or just military shit in attempts to restore order. See, the thing is, we can't kill the system, but you know what we can do? We can vote for our local legislatures, city, county, statewide, House of Representatives. We can make small changes and weed things out. We can't do that if we're not educated. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. There are way too many people who have just run uncontested for years and years and years. And I saw someone make a video about this, is that there are so many career politicians and they're that way because nobody votes against them and nobody runs against them. So we can solve this problem by taking their place. Yeah, sure, whatever. You might not feel like you can or should be able to, but I mean, shit, man, I'm thinking about running. I mean, why not? I mean, if it's me versus some old white guy, maybe I could win. Maybe. But I mean, like, we can't just wait for people to die to take their place, okay? Like, get out there, you know, vote, and be the person to vote for. Why not? Why not? It's not like you can make it worse, you know? I mean, maybe you could, but not much worse. First of all, the Underground Railroad did not destroy the government. It enhanced it and changed it so that it benefited them, the people of the United States. Second, a lot of them died. We don't know how many, though, because they burned their records after killing them. But the people who did that, the people who made that change, they were willing to accept that they might die in the process. Are you? We vote for our Senate and House of Representatives. I'm thinking a lot of people are forgetting some of the stuff that we learned in middle and high school, and also we learned in bits and pieces, and so this is just going to be a comprehensive study on exactly how everything works within our legislative and executive branches. Oh boy, I got 3 minutes to do this. Let's go. So we, the people of the United States,
vote for our Senate and our House of Representatives. The House of Representatives and Senate make up Congress. If one of us has an idea, we can send that idea up to our Senate members or our House members for our district. If our Senate and House members like it, then they can pass it up to the rest of their Congress members. So that then becomes a bill. It's also worth noting that if a Senate member or a House member has an idea for a bill, they don't need us to give them the idea. They can also just create the bill. Once the bill has been drafted, if it is drafted by the Senate, then it goes to the proper Senate committee and the proper Senate subcommittee, and they will offer hearings and revisions for that. Same thing goes if it was drafted by a member of the House. If it was drafted by a member of the House, then the proper House committee and the proper House subcommittee will be hearing about that and revising it. Proper committees and subcommittees are basically just members of the House who have extensive knowledge and opinions on this particular topic. So once it passes through the proper committees, it goes through the other version. So say it went through the House committees and subcommittees, then it would also go through the Senate committees and subcommittees, and Congress would vote as a whole for the bill. At which point, that bill then goes to the president. The president can choose to either pass or veto it, and then if he decides to veto it, then it will go back to the Congress. And then if the Congress has 2/3 majority, then they can then sign it into a law, where it becomes a law. But then you've also got executive orders. Executive orders are issued by the president, completely bypassing this entire process. There are ways for us to stop executive orders, though. If we have a Congress that is willing to pass a 2/3 majority, they can either completely cut funding for the executive order, or they can just completely kill the bill, or rather the law that has officially been signed by the president. This is unlikely because our Senate and our House of Representatives are so partisan that they will not agree on anything to get a 2/3 majority. So that's why the president keeps doing this. Once a bill becomes a law, if there's a little bit of a discrepancy, what exactly does this mean? Then either on a criminal or civil level, a judge or a jury will then decide on the verdict of that. They'll either say you were right or you were wrong, and then if one party or another doesn't like it, then they can appeal to any of these. At this point, it will either be yayed, nayed, or sent back to the state. Or it could be voted by the Supreme Court, then possibly amended by Congress.
Listen, y'all over here talking about how we need to dismantle our government, how we need to stop using banks, how we need to stop paying taxes, how we need to take our identities back into the hands of the people. And you know what's going to happen if we do that? We are going to need each other. If there is no system in place to help the people who need help, that power immediately goes back on the people. And it is absolutely 100% hypocritical to talk about how the government should help people and what the government should be doing when you aren't doing any of those things. Especially when you're talking about dismantling that government. I got people telling me how couples therapy takes away accountability. Well, yeah, sure, Joe, it takes away accountability if you're not putting any effort into it. If you are making it the therapist's job to fix your relationship, it is your job, Joe. I actually have a friend named Joe. Not about you, Joe, sorry. It is not the government's job to tell us how to treat people. You know what, though? They have to freaking do it anyway, and that's depressing. No, it should not be the government's job to take care of single mothers. That's the community's job. If you are the community, which you are, you're failing these people. So, y'all want to talk about a lack of accountability? Take accountability. You want to go back to the way things were and live off of the land? You're going to need to learn how to get along with your neighbors.
There's absolutely middle ground, and I will tell you what it is. And I'll give you a hint. This is a distraction. Women in today's society do not feel comfortable or safe bringing a child into this world. Women in today's society don't feel comfortable or safe. The lack of financial security, the lack of actual reproductive health education, the lack of the feeling of safety that should come with living in a society that is advanced technologically. That's the real issue. The middle ground is stop fighting, start helping. Stop arguing, and start finding solutions. Like what kind of solutions, you might ask? Offering real sex education that isn't just abstinence is number 1 on my list. Let's be honest. What % of people were actually abstinent after those classes? Normalizing vasectomies, allowing women to get their tubes tied, fixing the foster care system, offering actual mental health care to people who need it, raising the wages for people who care for these people, lowering the cost of houses, interest rates, rent, normalizing couples therapy, fostering a community environment in the workplace and in neighborhoods, organizing cooperatives so no single parent feels like they're doing it alone, making childcare less expensive, or paying more to childcare workers, fixing the education system, because then maybe the kids who are born into this world have the opportunity to make it better, which means we're going to have to pay teachers more, treating people like actual decent human beings, telling our governments to regulate carbon emissions as far as they possibly can in order to protect the world that our children will inherit, stop taking people's kids away if they can't pay their power bill,